My humble respect to Guru Mahan, Guru Piran Sivasankaran, Guru Piran Nyo, fellow Jnanis. Today I'm going to cover Swamiji's chapter 21. And you see that in this chapter, Swamiji talks about what are the kind of interlinkages between the things that happens in our lives and how we have an influence on ourselves and society. So here he speaks about why some people are very successful in their lives and why some have challenges. And we see that sometimes we too have challenges in our lives. We have failures, the things that we attempt, we don't succeed. And there are moments that, we are very successful. So here Swamiji talks about, what are the key things that drives people to be successful? Is it accidental or is it something that is much more deeper? So here Swamiji takes through, us through this journey of various belief systems on why people are successful or not successful. So what we want to see is that why are some successful and others are not, right? What does successful means here? It could mean better wealth, happiness. We get a lot of respect. We are peaceful. We are more patient. Some people are more calmer and cooler. There's a sense of freedom to do what they want to do. There's a sense of self-confidence, right? So a lot of successful people are very self-confident. They have a very positive outlook on life. They are self-sufficient. They don't have to depend on others. They emotionally and financially and otherwise, they are very successful, less dependent on others. They're very creative and innovative, and they have often, their mind is always continuously expanding, very productive. And the interesting thing is that the willingness to learn and the ability to learn also is very high. So we see that some of the characteristics of very successful life is, it could be a combination of everything or one or the other, depending on what success means for many people. But we also see that in that context, there are challenging things in life. Many people go through, we all go through at some point in our lives, lack of wealth, we're short of money, or short of resources, moments of unhappiness. Sometimes we feel people don't give us respect, and that, impacts us. There's a sense of, we're unable to attain peace. We don't know what peace means, and we are unable to, it seems to be very elusive, right? And sometimes we have wrong notion of what peace is, We lack patience, with the people around us, our family, friends. We feel that, there's a lack of freedom. We can't do whatever we want to do. We have to follow certain norms, certain things that we want to do. We cannot do, right? So people feel curtailed. There's a lack of confidence in themselves, and most often, many have negative outlook on life. They have anger, hatred, jealousy. That in itself is very tormenting. It's a sense of insufficiencies. They feel that, they can do more, but they can't do it for whatever reason. Lack creativity and innovativeness. There's a constriction of the mind, and in Bhagavad Gita it says about the karpanya dosha. The mind is so shrunken that it cannot fend for itself. Not very productive, and all this sometimes leads them to unable to learn new things or not willing to learn new things. Lack of stamina, very short memory or very short stamina. So we see this a lot in many people's lives, and sometimes we have also gone through this. There are moments that are very, very successful. There are moments that we see life can be quite challenging. And we see that this plays out in many people's lives, So Swamiji talks about why this is the case, and what's the relationship between all this. Some people attribute this, our successful life or our failures to our karmas. the kind of karmas that we have. This is a belief that, our good life, this life, may be because of our past karmas, the karmas that we inherit from, previous life. Maybe we did good things, we benefit from those karmas in this life. So these karmas carry forward. Similarly, there is this notion that the reason why we have sufferings, the reason why we have challenges in our lives, the reason why we can't progress, the reason why we have disease and all kinds of challenges is because of accumulated past karmas. So this is this one belief, belief system that many people have. So, sometimes you see that disability and many things, people say, well, this is because of past karmas or accumulated karmas from previous life that they're paying the price today. So what does Mahan have to say about this? He says very nicely that he says that, so here, birth and rebirth, we covered that. And he says, we get good things in this life because we did good things in the previous life. And similarly, we have to pay. So what is Mahan's view in this perspective? Mahan's view is very interesting. He says that, if you are strong in your critical powers, it means if you have very strong mindset, a rational mindset, thinking, and you see that when you have that, you can reason why you are successful and failure when you fail, right? When you don't have a critical mindset, he says that then you realize that you have to depend on something other than an external thing that determines your success and failure. So it's very interesting. He says that, when you have a critical mindset, you are able to know why you are successful and why you're failing in certain things, right? So he speaks about that jnana, that knowledge that determines our path, whether we take a successful path or failure, a path that we will fail. He says that, if you are strong in your critical powers and rational thinking and adopt good things by avoiding bad things. So that means that you have that critical mindset, the intelligence and the knowledge to do the things that are right, that will give you a successful path, right? And try to avoid the challenges. He says, you would have, you would not then relate this to karmas. He says that because you understand what are the forces that is determining your success or failure. So you don't worry about this good and bad is because of fruits of past uppers that you did in previous life, that all the dharma meditation you did in previous life, or the things that of past karmas, because then you are able to rationalize why this is happening. So he says that without analyzing them, people began to associate, because people are not thinking deeper. They started, reasoning it, based on, association of previous births. So they need to explain why some people are successful or why some people, and because they don't have a rational, deep, an enlightened mind, they give reasons of maybe it could be past life. And that kind of explanation is very simplistic, right? So here's what Swamiji says then. See, when you rationalize, when you think deeper, you realize that it is not about your past karmas or birth or rebirth. It is actually about, success in anything that you do will come down to two important things. Focus, you see, and that focus is very important. Whatever you take, you must have that focus, the concentration, the ability to understand why some things happen, what are the cause and effect, what are the things that relate to one another. So that is why you see that here he speaks about accidental combination of activity and impact to yourself and society. You see, most people think something is happening. They can see some, things are happening, but they can't rationalize why this is happening. because they don't go deep enough to understand that relationship. So we associate with, dogmatic belief systems and things that try to explain this without much logic and reason. So Mahans and great saints were like scientists, thinking, why this relationship? Why some are successful? Why some things I do, I fail? So they focus, they try it, okay, they fail it. They say, why? They focus on what they're doing and the outcomes that they're achieving. And the second aspect is that effort, how you put in the effort to be able to see what effort that you're putting. Is it the right effort that you're putting in? Is it the effort that leads to the outcome that you want to achieve? And the focus and effort are the two important things that you can control. So it's very interesting. The karmas you have no control over. So most people leave it to, something external that they have no control over. And hence they live a life, which is determined, it is beyond their control. But Mahans and other great saints say, no, that's not how we're going to live. We want to understand what are the levers, what are the things that leads to this outcome. And they realize that to understand that levers or that things that help us achieve this, one needs to have that focus and one needs to put in the effort. Mahan always says, Moerchipa, whatever you want to achieve, you have to put in. Those two things we have full control over. Right? So, and we see that, so he says that it is not an accidental combination. It is actually an effort to be focused, to be able to understand the causal relationship between the effort and the outcomes. And this is what meditation enables one to do. So what he says is that to be able to understand success or failures, one really needs to acquire that ability to introspect why things are happening, contemplate, what are the things that when I do certain things, I get the outcome, reflect back what was successful, what was not successful, and finally deepen it to be able to have that wisdom, knowledge to understand that causal relationship. So you see that success for many of the Mahans are a road to persistence, perseverance, and practice. It is very important. Yeah, you fail, it's okay, never mind, we keep trying. So failure becomes an important foundation for learning for many people who are enlightened, even including Mahan. Many times he tried different things. It failed, he learned from that failing. Also, he sees that, one of the part of the effort is also sacrifice, willing to give up time to learn new things, willing to give up things, and to learn to accept disappointment. There are moments that you're not going to get what you're going to, you put in all the effort, nothing comes out of it. As a matter of fact, there may be negative impact. So there will be disappointment. Learn to manage that disappointment. That itself is an art of doing. And this is where the meditation, introspection, contemplation, reflection, and meditation is very transforming the disappointment into development. Cultivating good habits, to be able to do the right thing to keep ourselves physically fit, mentally fit, spiritually fit, and intellectually fit. So cultivating good habits, that's part of the effort. The other aspect is hard work, putting in the hard work to achieve the outcomes we want. And if we put in the hard work, we may not see the result immediately, but over time, the result starts showing. And the last one is actually dedication. You have to be dedicated to what you are doing. It is not, in jobs, it's not a career. Career is a kind of a limited way of looking at things. It's a calling. Whenever you take something as a calling, it's much more deeper. These are things that people don't see, but you see that why some people are very successful is because, you may say, wow, they're doing very well. It is because of their past karmas. No, or they're failing because of their past karmas. No, when you're successful, there must be some underlying drivers for this. And this is what part of the jnana and the rational the scientific way of thinking, why something is happening, why some people are successful. When you go deep down beneath, you see that they have persistence, they learn from their failures and so on. There's dedication. These are things that we don't see, right? Including, you see, in Mahan discovered this great secret, but there's so much effort, so much failures. He almost lost his life to be able to discover this. So you see that, success, the road to success is a road where we have many difficulties. There are times that we make mistakes and we have to accept those mistakes. We have to persevere even though we fail. There will be times that we will have obstacles in our lives, obstacles in achieving the dreams and the outcomes we want. Sometimes we get distracted. Sometimes we fail. All this requires us to stay focused, continuously introspect, contemplate, reflect, and meditate. These are the 4 key tools that we have to overcome everything and anything in this life. And victory, that means the ability to overcome ignorance and the ability to become successful, to be able to live an enlightened, a prosperous life, requires, looking at things with a much more universal outlook. Never surrender. When we surrender, when we mortgage our intelligence, we then are at the mercy of things that we have no control over. Right? So we need to persevere, and there's a beautiful saying that we have to get to the valley of tenacity, the valley of intensity, the valley of universality. And that's what, this great saints and sages, is not an accidental thing. It is inbuilt in us, and we have to discover that secret within us. And when we do that, what we see here is that, we realize then that, the success and failure are actually 2 sides to the same coin, right? The coin must have value. There's no value for a coin if you don't have that, heads and tails, right? You will not appreciate life if you don't have the challenging moments and the good moments. And here, beautifully said that, when a great saint, a Mahan, somebody who meditates, introspects, somebody who's enlightened, don't see failure as a failure, but they know that failure is not opposite of success. Failure is part of success itself. So when we fail in our lives, when we fail in things, we need to be able to have that mental stamina, the intellectual curiosity, the willpower to be able to use these challenges, and the, failures as a foundation for our learning and discovery and enlightenment. So this is what Swamiji says, but that requires a powerful mind that is continuously absorbed in wisdom, knowledge, nurturing knowledge, integrating it, having an experience, the experiential learning. Mahan said, Arivin Arival, Arivin Telividam Telivai Tendadu Jnanam. So that experiential learning that gives us the wisdom, knowledge to navigate our lives through these various ups and downs, ultimately achieving that steady state of samatva. So we see this requires, so that we are not at the mercy of things, forces that is beyond our control. If we did that, we see that we inherit the qualities of Paramahamsa. And I've spoken about this before. Hamsa, the swan, has a beautiful, you see it's gliding majestically on the lake or on the river, but most people see it as gliding and so majestic. But most people don't see that it's paddling really hard beneath the water. And you see that great saints and sages, enlightened people, they look so majestic, very regal, but deep down, they put in a lot of effort to achieve that greatness. And this quality is called qualities of Paramahamsa. Hamsa is actually a swan. A swan has got a very nice quality. In the lake of, a huge lake, there's a lot of contaminants and a lot of things. It puts its beak into that lake, and it only takes the water and the nutrition that is necessary for it to sustain itself. In that same way, we are in that ocean of life. We have to learn to dip our mind and our intellect into the ocean of life and take that nutrition that enriches us and enlightens us. Anyone that can do that is called a Paramahamsa. When we attain that state, we see that Sukha and Dukkha are treated equally. Sukha and Dukkha are used as a foundation, as a combustion, as a combustion for our enlightenment. So this is what Swamiji says, and Swamiji says very clearly that knowledge is useful for anything and everybody. So without this acquisition of knowledge, one would not be able to achieve that beautiful, serene, peaceful, and enlightened life. And he goes on to say that, if we want to be very successful in our lives, this introspection, contemplation, reflection, and meditation leads us to the 10 capitals of life, right? And I've mentioned this before, that when we put in the effort to know who we are, when we put in the effort to, harness the power within us, there's something happens in our neurons. Our neurons starts deepening. Parts of our brains, the neural pathway becomes much more deeper and longer. Part of our brains, the prefrontal cortex, and parts of our brain starts growing gray matter. And as we are able to do that, our bandwidth of our brain, our mind expands. And when we have that, we can actually generate peace, calmness, creativity, innovativeness, and the positive things in our lives. When we do that, it reinforces the neural pathways. And that reinforcement and deepening one another, we see that our spiritual capital, we are able to understand who we are as a, material being and who we are as a spiritual being. We harness our spiritual capital, which nature's embedded in us. Acquiring that spiritual capital helps us to attain a mental and emotional capital, ability to give us the stealth of a mind that is stable, that is, can withstand any, sukha and dukkha, any, turbulence of life. With that mental and emotional capital, we're able to, when our mind is strong and sharp and pristine, you see that the brain operates really well. It becomes a very, well-oiled, organ. And you see that our hormones and others become more harmonized. That gives us good physical health, physical capital. We don't get tired. We age gracefully. And what is really interesting is that our intellect, when our mind and our brain and our body is healthy, our intellectual capacity and capability goes up. We're able to think deeper. We're able to understand things better. We're able to, make sense of the world and our lives and the existence, what existence means, because the bandwidth is there. It nurtures creativity. We get beautiful ideas. We are able to, if you are a writer, you'll be able to write beautiful poetries. Your language improves, your insights improve. If you are a musician, you compose new things. If you are a mathematician, you discover new ideas of the world. So we see that the creative capital goes up. When that goes up, very interestingly, that you discover new ways of unlocking the natural capital that nature has blessed us. Nature has not given everybody everything, but nature has given all of us something special. We now have that intellectual and creative capital. Our mind is able to, uncover that natural capital in all of us. It also gives us, a sense of confidence, a sense of, ability to interact with other people, relate to other people. This is what we mean by social capital. be able to operate at different levels, right? And we have a sense of humility. Humility is not about you are better than somebody else. Humility means that you know your value and you value other people. So you are able to harness your own return on value to life and that of others, right? Irrespective of the differences that you have. When you have that, you're able to, uh, you know, uh, acquire, you have that self-confidence, that empowering capital. That is, you're self-sufficient. I have everything. I don't need to ask anybody anything. I am able to discover and learn from myself. You don't stand in front of anyone and beg for anything because you have everything. You have the divinity within you. And that's how powerful the human mind becomes. And over time, you acquire the leadership skills, the leadership capital to lead yourself. You become the CEO of your life, Chief Enlightenment Officer of your life, and that of your family, and that of your workplace, that of your community. And you see that the leadership quality comes up. We talked about self-respect, right? And we talked about respect of successful people, are respected because they're able to lead, not only themselves, but others. And finally, we see that, people are successful because of this mindset, because of its anchoring onto the spiritual capital that is able to generate all the other capital. The economic capital starts, increasing. They're able to manage their material needs in a very sustainable way. So we see that, Mahan says it's not an accidental thing. It is effort. One needs to put in the effort to be able to discover that power within oneself, that inner resources in oneself, so that they're able to lead a successful, happy, joyful, and an inspirational life. The alternate is not so great. If we don't put in this effort, we are unable to acquire that knowledge to harness the 10 capitals of life. And if we don't do that, we see that we always feel that our life is not fulfilled. We don't lead an optimal life. We have all kinds of challenges, and that reinforces back, gives us worries, and that reinforces, and you see that our neuron starts growing things that are not so pleasant, not so more negative things are reinforced, and you see that vicious cycle catches on. So we see that, we don't want to do things, there's laziness, we give excuses, all those things, and it leads to a negative spiral. But to break away from that, one needs to have the patience, persistence, perseverance, and that practice of introspection, contemplation, reflection, and meditation, not just during meditation period, but in every aspect of our lives, right? We have to be able to do this in our non-meditation stage, in our daily engagement with the material world. And in the deep sleep, we are already in that state. So in all our states, we do this, that we are always, anchored on that, spiritual substratum that is embedded in us. And if you're able to do that, as Mahan says, that we're able to achieve, our true objective in this life, to know who we are and to have the best outcomes in our lives, the best return on value of this life, which we have a kind of a finite life, in this material world, but we live in an infinite way. And over time, we age gracefully, and when time comes up, we depart gracefully with all the beautiful experiences, in this limited world, but living in an unlimited, infinite. Sandosham.